In this video, we're going to go over some really important definitions or for terms. So say, for example, I take 4x squared plus 3. What does the 4 mean? What does the x mean? What does the 2 mean? So we'll explore that in the next video, or sorry, in this video. So say, for example, I take 4x squared plus 3. Let me actually just extend it to, let's say, equals 5. Now, there are some really important terms that you need to know. So here, for example, the x clearly is the variable. So, we all know that x is a variable. It means it can take on any value. The 4, because it's in front of that variable, this is called the coefficient. Okay? So it's really important to know this term. It's called the coefficient. The 2, obviously, is the exponent. So it's exponent. That's over there. This plus here that sort of combines the 4x squared and the 3, this is known as the operator. You already know some basic operators. So for example, plus, minus, the division sign, or even multiplication, these are 4 basic operators that everyone should know. 3, the 3 has no variable attached to it. And so since it has no variable attached to it, it always stays the same. So therefore, this 3 is known as a constant because there's no variable, it stays the same. This equal sign here is simply just the equal sign. And by the way, this is an equation. It's not an expression, it's an equation. Why? Because it has an equal sign right here. And finally, the number 5 over here, this again has no variable, so therefore this is a constant. Okay, so just to go over this again, if you have a variable and a number right in front of it, that's called a coefficient. It's really important to know that. The x is the variable, its exponent is 2. We have the plus operator over here, the constant of 3, an equal sign, and 5. So let's try another example. So say, for example, you have 2x. Oops, you know what? I'm just going to use yellow first. Let me try that. So let's go here. So let's say you have 2x minus 4 is equal to 7x squared. Okay, so let's go through the definitions of each of these components. So once again, clearly x here is the variable. So I'm just going to write var for variable, but you should probably write the whole thing variable. This 2 is the coefficient. This minus here is the operator. This 4, you should probably have guessed, since it's not changing, there's no variable assigned, this must be the constant. This is simply an equal sign. Once again, over here, this is the x here is a variable, so I'm just going to write var. This 7 here, because it's attached to this now becomes the coefficient. And this 2, because it's the exponent to the x, is simply the exponent. All right, so I hope that made it clear. You should probably know the operator. The key one to know here, I would say, is the coefficient. Just remember that if you ever have a variable and a number in front of it, you should know what the coefficient is. Or you should know that the number in front is the coefficient. Let's take, for example, another one. Let's take, for example, x. All right. So now it doesn't look like there's a coefficient here, but really there is a silent coefficient. Whenever you just have x, it doesn't mean 0. There's no 0 in front. What we here mean we have 1x. So the silent coefficient here is 1. So this is a coefficient. Even though we don't have to write 1x, you should know that this is a silent coefficient. So I'm just going to write maybe silent in quotation marks. This is not a proper definition, but you should know that if you just have x, you have a silent coefficient. And also, one other thing you should know is that here, when we have x, we have a silent coefficient of 1, right? We don't have to write that 1, but we should know that this is the exponent. The exponent for x. So again, if I simply, so it doesn't matter what variable I write. So let's say, for example, I write y, right? We should know that there is a silent coefficient of 1 with the y and a silent exponent of 1 with the y. So let's go over one last thing. So say, for example, I have 4y plus 3x equals 7. Can you identify all these things? So hopefully you've been able to identify that the 4 and the 3, these two are coefficients. Okay, and 4 is a coefficient for y, 3 is a coefficient for x. I'm going to put this in green. Y and x, these are variables. The plus sign is the operator. Let's do the equal sign here. I'm just going to use red again. The equal sign here is, this is simply the equal sign. And finally, the 7 is simply a constant. I'll see you in the next video.